on Thursday night, there was a lot of back and forth at the committee sitting, Appointments Committee of Parliament, and then there was chaos, there was violence, there was distraction. The following morning, the Speaker of Parliament in the plenary made some announcements about the suspension of 4 members of Parliament, 3 from the NPP side, 1 from the NDC side, because of their behavior in the committee room. Before that, though, the minority side walked out, or actually decided to recuse itself from the ongoing process because it said that it did not think it was the right thing that was happening in the committee room. Suffice it to say, the committee went ahead to vet about, 5 more nominees of the President John Dramani Mahama. Now, the minority has issued a statement saying that the Speaker's actions are wrong in law. Let me speak to a lawyer, member of Parliament for Ofasia Yerebi, former Minister for Information and Works and Housing, Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. Grateful that you join us for the Channel One newsroom. First of all, give us the crux of the minority's position in that statement you issued.
So the first point is that we acknowledge that developments in Parliament were regrettable. And this regret was expressed in an apology that was read on behalf of the majority and the minority by the chairperson of the committee. The second point is that we have not said that there should not be an investigation and a sanctioning of persons who may have either committed acts that were contemptuous of Parliament, as you find in Orders 30 and 31, or acts that were amounting to disorderly conduct, as you find in Orders 129 and 130. Or even criminal acts. We haven't said that. And we share the view that investigations and sanctions are well placed. What we have said as a minority, however, is that with the greatest of respect to Mrs. Speaker, the orders of Parliament do not give the Speaker the power to, on his own, suspend members of Parliament for something that he has a view on. There are procedures in the standing orders on how matters of contempt should be dealt with, or how matters of disorderly conduct should be dealt with. And our argument is that to the on his own does that without recourse to the rules, and to the extent that he singles out 3 minority members and just 1 member of the majority. When even watching on video, you will find a lot more persons. We are beginning to view it as acts that are not necessarily neutral, but have a partisan inclination. And that is why we are calling on the Speaker to have a second view of the decisions that he announced on the floor.
So you are not against sanctions to be taken against the MPs who misconducted themselves. Your concern is a procedure that was deployed by the Speaker. So what should have been the procedure?
If you look at Order 30 of the standing orders, it deals with what we call general contempt. And Order 30 is curled from Article 122 of the Constitution of Ghana, the things that amount to contempt of Parliament in general. And if you look at Order 31, Order 31 also lists a number of specific acts that are considered as contemptuous of Parliament or in breach of parliamentary privilege. Now, if it is the Speaker's view that what has happened amounts to contempt or breach of privilege, then you would have to go to Order 33, 1, that says that a member may bring to the notice of the House any complaint of contempt of Parliament. So a proper complaint will need to be made to Mr. Speaker. 33, 2 says that in urgent circumstances, a member may, by the leave of the Speaker, at a time other than the time appointed for complaint of contempt, raise a matter of contempt. So there's actually a time for raising a matter of contempt if you look at the order of business. But Order 34 gives the Speaker the right that despite anything contained in these orders, Mr. Speaker may refer any matter of privilege to the Committee of Privileges and Immunities for examination, investigation, and report. So like Mr. Speaker properly did, in the absence of the Committee on Privileges, he set up a 7-member committee to look at it. And that is the right procedure. However, Mr. Speaker then jumped that process by saying that while he has set up a committee, he himself is prescribing sanctions that persons will have to pay for it, etc. And then he's also going ahead to suspend for up to, I think, 2 weeks. And that you will find has no provisioning in the standing orders or the Constitution of Parliament. Again, we are not saying that an investigation should not take place or persons who are found to have committed acts that are contemptuous should not be, held to account for it. Now, if it is not a contemptuous act, but it is disorderly conduct, you will find the rules pertaining to disorderly conduct under Orders 129 and Order 130. And even for those ones, when a proper investigation has been brought and a proper motion has been moved for suspension, for a first-time offender, you will find, I think it's about 4 days. And then for a second-time offender, you'll find a higher number of days. And then for a third-time offender, you'll find an even higher number of days. So there are processes to be used in doing that. Now, why we are worried about this is that if this precedent is allowed to stand, today we may have a benevolent speaker. Tomorrow we may have a speaker who would then use this as precedent to find another reason to say he has, on his own, without recourse to any procedure, suspended a member of parliament for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and the member will not have any recourse. And so for us, our argument is that while the acceptable and an apology has been rendered, while Mr. Speaker is justified in his righteous anger, the processes in accordance with the standing orders should be followed.
All right. So the processes that you think were not followed affected MPs from both sides. At least a whip on the majority side has been sent home alongside 3 of your colleagues. Why then are you saying that the Speaker's actions were partisan?
Because if you watch the videos, you will find a lot more members, even on the NDC side, who were involved in acts that if you are just watching from where you are sitting without inquiring into it, you could also say that they are also, culpable of one offense or the other.
So there should have been more NDC. There should have been more NDC MPs going.
No, we're saying that if you just take a cursory view, you could also come to the view that there are other people, a lot more other people, indeed a lot more other people on the NDC side.
But also on your side.
Standing orders provide, if I may land, that is exactly why the standing orders provide that you should have an investigation and you should give the persons, found or observed, an opportunity to be heard. For example, Jerry McShide, who I'm seeing on your screen now, explains that he had gone into the center to try and calm tempers, and the table was being pushed towards him, and he was pushing the table backwards. Is that true? Is that not true? That is why he must be given a right to be heard. So it is important that the processes are followed so that you don't have a lopsided view. Right now, nobody knows why Mr. Speaker chose 3 MPP persons and 1 NDC person. Why is it not 5? Why is it not 6? Other people have other people that they store in there. And so it will be important to allow the committee to do its investigation, invite all of these persons before the committee, show them the evidence of what you have seen, have them questioned, have them provide their responses, and then a proper determination can be made. Again, I must make the point that we are not saying that an investigation should not take place or that persons who may be found culpable should not be punished. What we are saying is that the processes, in accordance with the standing orders, should be followed. So
you believe the standing orders were breached, natural rules of natural justice have been breached. How do you intend to challenge these? How do you intend to challenge them?
Well, I think the first thing to do is that when an order made by the Speaker doesn't find favor with a person or a group of persons or a member or a side, you bring it to the Speaker's attention. The statement that we issued sought to inform the public our view of what had transpired, and we will be taking steps to bring it to the Speaker's attention. And we will be drawing his attention to the various orders that provide for how these matters should be handled. We are hopeful that the Speaker, when his attention is drawn to these orders, will ensure that the right thing is done.
Are you not, as a minority group, blowing hot and cold? Because you, on the one side, do not agree with this suspension. But on the other side, you wanted to use this suspension as a reason to adjourn the committee sitting for until that time where a decision is taken. What is the position on going to the appointments committee? Is it boycotted?
It's a very good question you've asked. Now, when the Speaker makes an order, even if you do not agree, you first have to comply. And then you take processes to bring it to the Speaker's attention. And so you'll notice that when the Speaker made the order, our Chief Whip, Frank Anodompre, who was in the chamber, he got up, he bowed, and he exited in accordance with what the rules say when a member has even been taken through the process and has been suspended. Subsequent to that, we then drew the attention of the chairman of the appointments committee that Mr. Speaker has suspended 2 officers from the composition of the appointments committee. That is the office of the Chief Whip and the office of the Majority Chief Whip, the Office of the Minority Chief Whip, the Office of the Majority Chief Whip. Now, if you look at the new standing orders, these are officers that are represented on the Appointments Committee. Our view is that the order Mr. Speaker gave amounted to a constructive dissolution of the Appointments Committee. And we are fortified by his subsequent words, where he said that he's calling for an immediate meeting that day to reconstitute the Appointments Committee. That signals to you that Mr. Speaker recognized that his earlier order, which order we, by the way, disagree with, but still have to comply with until we challenge it, that order amounted to a constructive dissolution of the Appointments Committee. That's why Mr. Speaker said there should be an immediate meeting to reconstitute. In that instance, we brought it to the attention of the chairman that vetting could not proceed with a committee that has been constructively dissolved. Guarded it and proceeded. We'll bring that to the attention of Mr. Speaker subsequently.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. That's the Honorable Member of Parliament for Ofuasi and Yerbe Kojo, Oppong Nkrumah, speaking to us there.